Gurudevo Maheshwarahan Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Today is Friday. That's why we continue Sugama. Okay. Is it Friday 30th? Just a minute. December Friday. Okay. Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Sugama. In Sugama, okay. So what we in Sakshi we have said something. Okay. In the Ramanuja's Paksha, in view, they took it Pramatrutva is Sakshi. For this, Swamiji's reply, Sarvasakshi, the word Sarvasakshi implies even the Karutrutvam is also included as a part of what is witnessed. Okay, so Pramatrut with Sakshi, Vachit Pratyaya with. Here he says, Vartika's one shloka he quotes very nicely, Kvachit Pramatru with Sakshi. This we have stated already. So, Pramatru, Pramana, Prameya. All this is witnessed by Sakshi. Witnessed by Sakshi means Sakshi is not one of them. Sakshi is not one of them, either Pramatru. He is one common underlying to all the three. Sakshi is the one underlying all the three, Triputi, Jnatru, Jnana, Gneya. Therefore, Sakshi doesn't have this division. Sakshi is not one of them. That means he is not Jnatru alone. Second point is Sakshi doesn't have the division of Jnatru, Jnanam, Gneyam. Sakshi is common to three, underlying the three is the truth of the three. Sakshi being pure consciousness, consciousness itself is free from vritti, free from a notion. All notions are witnessed by consciousness. In the sense, all notions are known within the consciousness, but consciousness itself is not known. And consciousness is neither connected with them, connected in the sense, is not dependent on them. Just as Jnatru is connected to Gneya, here by connection we mean dependent. Jnatru is relative to Gneya, dependent in the sense relative. Jnatru is relative to Gneya, but Sakshi is not relative to what is witnessed. It is independent of. Sometimes people take Sakshi also relative, but that again is due to Adhyaropa. That Naishkarma Siddhi takes, we'll leave it. We'll talk of it only when we teach Naishkarma Siddhi. But here Sakshi Cheta Kevalo Nirgunascha. Upanishad Shankaracharya takes Sakshi is Advitiya. Upanishad Aitareya also says Sakshi Cheta Kevalo Nirgunascha. Sakshi is consciousness, is a Chaitanyam, and is Nirguna. Okay. So, Shrutischa Sakshinaha Kartrutva Rahitameva Chinmatra. He says Sakshi is free from Jnatrutvam. Kartrutvam means we have to take it as Jnatrutvam. Jnatrutvam is consciousness in the form of a vritti and related to Gneyam. a vritti, awareness, the subject, the consciousness which is associated with vritti and related to gneyam. That is called Gnatru. But Sakshi himself is not Gnatru because he is not in association with a vritti. He is not in the upadhi of the vritti, nor he is related to gneyam. He is independent of them. Therefore, Sakshi is Chaitanya Matram iti. Tasmat Sakshat Drashtariti. Pratyaya Smaranam Anyathaiva. Therefore, Sakshat Drashtari iti, there is a that in the Purva Paksha, they used the word Sakshat Drashtari Sanyaya. He used Panini's Sutra to explain how Sakshi means one who knows directly. Directly means what? A Pramatru is Sakshi, he interpreted that way. For this, our Swamiji says, this Sakshat Drashtari Panini's rule, grammatical sutra, Vyakarana Sutra has to be understood differently. You can't take it the way you are taking it. Therefore, Ataha, how to take it? So, Sakshat knows, directly knows doesn't mean directly related to Gneyam. He is independent of Gneyam. We can only say Sakshi is by remaining pure consciousness, he knows. That's all. The Sakshi's way of knowing and Gnatru's way of knowing, there is a difference. I think this we have discussed elaborately long before in Sugama itself. Gnatru knows by being related to Gneyam. Briefly, I tell you here. Gnatru knows by being related to Gneyam, a given object. The object is within time and place and object like this. Time and place having certain features. So, Gnatru is associated with a vritti and related to a given object. Then Gnatru knows the objects one by one. Gnatru obtains within the waking state. Gnatru is present within the waking state and knows the waking objects one by one. Gnatru obtains within the waking state, being related to external objects, knows them one by one. Whereas the Sakshi knows the entire state. Sakshi knows the entire state, not only one state. He knows the coming and going of the state. He knows all the states. Himself is a stateless, nor is he related to any state. The Sakshi's knowing is spontaneous knowing. It is not a related, his knowing is not by being related to Gneyam. Okay, Sakshi's way of knowing is not being related to the object of witness, and Sakshi's knowing is not a sequential knowing. Pramatru or Gnatru knows sequentially the objects one by one. He knows the objects one by one. There is a sequence in knowing. Gnatru knows in sequence. Sakshi doesn't have a sequence because Sakshi is free from time. Gnatru exists within time. Sakshi is free from time. Therefore, he knows the entire state in one stroke. That means his knowing is not a relationship with the external objects, relationship with the object of knowing. His knowing is being consciousness. See, his knowing is being consciousness. This is a very beautiful expression. So, Swamiji gives here like Savita Prakashate iti akartaryapi kartru pratyayopachara darshanat. He gives the example of sun. The sun shines. So, sun illumines. Generally, when we say sun or lamp or anything, when you say it illumines, the illumination is a relationship. Illumination is not an action. Illumination is not a relation. Okay. Illumination or shining. Shining on the part of the sun is not an action. Therefore, he is not a doer of, he is not an agent of action of illumination. Illumination or shining. Is shining a nature of sun? Is the nature of the sun, or is it an action on the part of the sun? If it is an action, he becomes an agent of action. But if fire burns, Is it an action? Though we call fire burns, is it an action on its part, or is it simply its nature? So whether there is somebody, whether there is an object to burn or not, fire remains hot by its very nature. Okay, fire remains hot by its very nature. Fire remains hot by its very nature. Therefore, there is no effort on the part of the fire to be hot. There is no effort on the part of the sun to illumine, because it's not an action. He shines means his nature is shining, his nature is light. Sun shines. Similarly, Savita Prakashate, sun shines iti akartaryapi, though he is not an agent of action, though the shining is not an action on his part, it is only a simple his nature, yet we use an expression that sun is shining, the fire is burning. Sun is shining, fire is burning, yet they are not actions, they are only simply nature. Similarly, Sakshi is witnessing. When we say Sakshat Drashtari, according to Panini's grammatical rule, the Vyakarana Sutra, you are telling that the Sakshat Drashtari, Atma, Sakshi is a one who directly knows. Directly knows doesn't mean an action on his part. It is the very nature of consciousness, not. So the difference between knowing and the nature of consciousness. Do you know this difference? We have been telling, but once again. So the knowing is a relationship. Knowing is an action on our part. If it is an action on our part, I undergo change. See, two things happen. For a knower, a jnata, when he knows, if knowing is an action on his part, if it is an effort on his part, he changes from the previous state to next state. That means when he is knowing, if knowing is a process, if knowing is an effort, when he is knowing, he changes. When he doesn't know, he remains without action. When he acts, he knows. When he doesn't act, he remains not knowing. Isn't it? Jnatru is like that. Then Jnatru is related. Jnatru is related to an object. But whereas Sakshi is by its very nature consciousness. Sakshi is the nature of Sakshi is consciousness. Therefore, he doesn't change to be conscious. Being consciousness is not a process. In short, knowing is a process for Jnatru. Knowing is a process for Jnatru and a relationship. For Sakshi, knowing is neither a process nor it is a relationship. For Sakshi, witnessing is neither a process nor it is a relationship. It is its nature. See the difference? Sakshi, consciousness, is his nature, is neither a process nor it is a relationship. Okay, so similarly here, Savita Prakashate iti akartaryapi kartru pratyayopachara darshanaditi drashtavyam. Okay, now, ataha kartru pratyaya darshana matrat ahamarthata iti kudarshanam etat. Therefore, it is a very shallow interpretation. Kudarshanam means it is a wrong thinking. What is the wrong thinking? Just because there is a Sakshi, is a Sakshin in Sanskrit, Sakshin, that Nini Pratyaya is there. That Nini Pratyaya implies a doer of an action. Doer of an action because it's an agent of action. So just because a verb, that noun implies an agent, doesn't mean Sakshi himself is an agent. The language has its own limitation. You use the word. It is something like to be. In English, let us take to be or to exist is a verb. Therefore, you mean when we say Atma is, now does Atma becomes an agent of action? Because in the language, to be or to exist is a verb. Verb implies an action. But Atma is not a verb, is not an action. It is its just nature. Okay, therefore, don't go by, we cannot determine the nature of Sakshi based upon the word that is used in the language. The word may imply an agent, but Sakshi himself is not an agent. Don't go by the word that is used, because the word is used in another worldly context. But to Atma, you can't interpret based upon grammatical points. Therefore, they say it's a very silly, it is very superficial interpretation. It is kudarshaname tat, it is silly, it is wrong to say that. Now, okay, last. Now, the last sentence of it, ataha kartru pratyaya darshana matrad ahamartate. Okay, tadevam sarva sakshini iti visheshanameva atmani sarva sarva shiva samparkam varayati sarvam shivam. Therefore, sarva sakshini, the word itself gives all correct meaning. It clears all doubts. It removes all misconception. The Sarva Sakshini word itself is enough to explain the nature of Sakshi and remove all other misunderstandings. So without looking at it this way, without understanding the use, Bhashyakara's use of the word Sarva Sakshi, they started giving a different various interpretations. But look at it, it is directly Sakshi. Okay. Adhyasa Vicharopasamhara Bhashyam. Now coming to the next point. Now the eighth point, eighth chapter in the Adhyasa Bhashya, Adhyasa Vichara Upasamhara. Conclusion of Adhyasa Vichara. Discussion of Adhyasa. Deliberation and Adhyasa. Now we are concluding Adhyasa topic. Evamayam Anadiranantu. Bhashyakara himself is concluding. Evamayam, evam, in this manner. Ayam Adhyasaha. This Adhyasa is Anadiranantaha Naisargikaha. So a few words he explains: Anadirananta, Naisargika, Mithya Pratyaya Rupa. All these points in the Tika we shall discuss. In Swamiji's commentary we shall discuss them. Anadiranantaha, Adhyasa is beginningless, endless. See how beautifully Bhashyakara is, so many words. In his openly, in his expressly, he is telling Adhyasa is Anadiranantaha. Vyakhyanakaras have taken a different stand. They say Adhyasa begins. Adhyasaha Anadiranantaha Naisargikaha. It is instinctive. It is not a product. One is, he says, it is beginningless. It is not a product. But they took Adhyasa is a product and it begins. See how Vyakhyanakaras reinterpreted the words of Bhashyakara in their own way. Anadiranantaha, it has no beginning, no ending. It is beginningless, endless. That means it doesn't begin in time and end in time. Time itself is due to Adhyasa. Naisargikaha, it is not a product of anything. It is instinctively you find it. It is not a product. Naisargika means instinctive, natural. That means it is not a product. It is not brought about by any karma. Adhyasa is not produced due to any effort, any karma. Okay, Naisarg. In the commentary we will explain more. We are taking Bhashya sentence and just briefly explain. Adhyasaha Mithya Pratyaya Rupaha. See then, what is the nature of Adhyasa? More than once he says, even in the conclusion too. In the conclusion too, he makes it. Earlier we told Adhyaso Nama Mithya Pratyayaha, he told clearly. Atasmin tad buddhirityavochama, he told. Adhyasa means misunderstanding one thing as another, misunderstanding something as what it is not. It is Adhyasa is purely misunderstanding. There is no object. Adhyasa is not an object. Adhyasa is not substantial. Adhyasa is only a misunderstanding. The nature of Adhyasa is. Now here, even in concluding line, concluding sentence of Adhyasa, Bhashyakara once again reminds, Adhyasa is Mithya Pratyaya Rupaha. Its nature is a misunderstanding, a wrong knowledge. How clearly he says it is a misunderstanding and wrong knowledge. Vyakhyanakaras interpreted differently. It is not only wrong knowledge, they say, it is not only wrong knowledge, there is a wrong object. Misunderstanding is not only wrong knowledge, they say corresponding wrong object also. How can you bring wrong object? They say it is produced. This is illogical, and this is against Anubhava and against Bhashya Vakya too. And this Adhyasa, Kartrutva Bhoktrutva Pravartakaha, it brings about Kartrutvam and Bhoktrutvam. That means, earlier he told Mithya Pratyaya produces Ahamidam Mamedam, Naisargikoyam Lokavyavahara. Aham, idam, aham, I am, the I, notion of I. Earlier he told Adhyasa brings about I notion. Here he says Adhyasa brings about notion of agency and notion of enjoyership. Means the same. Notion of I, notion of karta, notion of bhokta, all these mean the same. Okay, pravartakaha, sarvaloka pratyaksha. One more thing he says, Adhyasa is universal experience. The misunderstanding or Adhyasa is a matter of sarvaloka pratyaksha. Loka means people. Loka means world, loka means people. Lokastu bhuvane jane. It is a bhuvana as well as jana. Jana means people, bhuvana is a world. So sarvaloka pratyaksha, it is a matter of everybody's experience. That means you don't have to speculate it, you don't have to use logic to prove it, because it's a matter of everybody's experience. You can only point out. You can only ask him to pay attention to it and find it already in your anubhava. So therefore, Mithya Pratyaya Rupa Avidya is found in our experience, and it is not logically speculated. Okay, this is the final concluding statement of Bhashyakara. Okay, now we'll go to the explanation of Swamiji. Grantha Sambandha Sankshepa Vistarabhyam Katitamartham Idanim Nigamayati. First, what is Adhyasa? He told briefly right in the beginning. Later, he elaborately we discussed for months and maybe years also. More than a year we discussed. And now he is coming to a conclusion. What is that? Eva Mayamanadirannanto Naisargiko Adhyasa Ityadina. In the Upakrama Vakya, in the initial, in the beginning statement of Adhyasa, he says Loka Vyavaharaha iti Vyavahara Grahanam Vyapadesha Pravrutyadi Rupa Bhedasya Adhyasakasya Adhyasakaryasya Sangrahartam Loka Vyavaharaha Naisargikoyam Loka Vyavaharaha, there he told. So here Loka Vyavahara word was used there. Vyavahara Grahanam Upadesha Pravrutyadi Rupa Bhedasya Adhyasa Karyasya Sangrahartam. There Vyavahara means all the three. A Pratyaya and a statement and action. All the three put together. We have been telling this. Vyavahara is threefold. One is a thought, speech and action. All these three put together is called Vyavahara. Adhyasa Vyavahara means the thought of Adhyasa, the talking of Adhyasa, and it's behaving behaving as if we are Adhyasta. That means if I have Adhyasa, Adhyasa means I have misunderstanding, I act as if somebody else. If I have a misunderstanding, I take myself to be somebody else. If I take it, or take it as example, we take rope as a snake. So it is not only thought of a snake, but we also talk to others as a snake. We refer to others, oh, this is a snake, here is a snake, here is a snake, don't come near, here is a snake. So you perceive it as a snake, you also talk about it as a snake, and you behave also as if it is a snake, you try to run away. You don't go near it, you are afraid. You are afraid and you run away. So all these three put together is called Vyavahara. The thought of it as a snake, you speak it as a snake, and you react to it as if it is snake. Okay, you don't react to it taking it to be a rope. Your reaction, your behavior will be based upon your thought of snake. Okay, therefore Vyavahara is thought of it and talking about, referring to it, and also behaving accordingly. All these three put together, vyavahara, loka vyavahara, it is the behavior of people. Okay, loka vyavahara means behavior of people. Behave as if anatma is me and atma is anatma is atma. This not only they think, they talk like that, that I am the body, I am sitting, I am standing. So they talk like that. Not only they have a notion that I am the body, they speak also that I am the body. When I say body is sitting, I am sitting. Body is talking, I am talking. Body is eating, I am eating. That means not only we think that body, mind and sense organs are me, we speak to others also as if body is me and then mind is me, sense organs are me. We don't say my body is eating, my body is talking, my body is sitting. We say I am sitting, I am running. We speak also in the same way. And then while acting also we act as if body is myself. I am the body. So when body is walking, I am walking. So the action also is according to it. So body is so a thought, a notion about it, a wrong notion that I take myself to be body, mind and sense organs. And I refer to others also that way, that I am the body, I am the mind, I am the sense organs. I am not well, my mind is not good, I am not this thing, I am. You refer to that. The notion, you talk about it, and also behave as if you are one. You are a body. So all these three put together is called vyavahara. So that loka vyavahara is due to adhyasa. That means in the adhyasa, in the mutually mistaking, the taking anatma as atma as anatma is underlying all these three. In the notion of I am the body, adhyasa is there. When you are talking to others, referring to others, yourself as a karta, bhokta, jnata, adhyasa is underlying there. When you are acting also, adhyasa is underlying there. That means in our thinking, in our speaking, in our acting, adhyasa is underlying. That means presupposing adhyasa, we do all the three. The thought, we think that way. That means in our thinking, adhyasa is implied. Sometimes you see a person says that, you said, oh, there is a misunderstanding. When he talks like this, there is a misunderstanding, you can see clearly, because assuming that something is there, he is talking. Assuming, see, supposing a person he is there, he is not the person. He is not the person here, he is not the owner of the house. He comes here and he sees the person sitting there and he talks to him, sir, can I have your chair for a while? He says. And he says, I am not the owner. No, sir, I am asking you again. That means when he is asking, he is keeping in his mind that he is the owner of the house, though he is not. That means when you are addressing, when you are talking to him as if he is an owner, in your mind there is an assumption he is not. That means that assumption is underlying in his way of addressing. Okay, in his way of talking, in his addressing, in his behavior, everything. Similarly, adhyasa is underlying in our thoughts, in our behavior, in our talking, every moment of our behavior, every action of our life, every thought of our life, every word we express it, we assume adhyasa. Adhyasa is there. It's underlying, you can see that. If person is talking, then you can see he's in adhyasa, because he's taking, speech is himself. The body is himself, therefore he is speaking. But you can see, if you have a mind to see, the jnanis, when they speak, you can see clearly there is something speaking and he himself stays detached from it. Like in a drama, the person, though he is acting, you can see he sees it is only an action, not himself. He himself remains detached from it. He himself remains unaffected by it. So there is something in him. You can see him, he's simply acting as if he is a human being, as if he is a person, is talking, thinking, etc. They are all apparent to us. But he stands himself unaffected by it, untouched by his thoughts, his speech, and his behavior. Okay. That means there is another aspect in him which remains untouched, like a screen behind all the film. He remains like a screen behind the film. He remains untouched. That from his way of talking, his behaving, you can see he looks somewhat different. He's not like an ordinary person. When you look at him, he remains stable, undisturbed. Though he is acting, he is undisturbed. Though he is speaking, he remains unmoved by anything. So this shows clearly that here is a person who is something more than what he appears to us. What he appears to us in his thoughts, he is expressing his thoughts, he is speaking, he is acting. But still he looks that this acting, this speech is something appearing to us. But he stands beyond what he is appearing to us. What he is appearing to us is only our appearance. But he himself seems to be something beyond it. Something untouched by all this thing. Remain untouched by anything. So he is at such a place where he is not reachable to our thoughts, our ideas, because he stands beyond these thoughts and speech and actions. So that's why he says he is beyond Vyavahara. And whatever we are interacting with him, we are relating to him, we are talking to him, we are listening to his words, we are trying to share his views, we are listening to his views. But all these thoughts, actions, etc., coming at from such a level, and he himself stands beyond this. He stands beyond that, because that's why these thoughts appear just superficially without touching him. That doesn't touch his core, his real nature. His real nature remains unaffected. Okay. Therefore, ihatu kartrutva bhoktrutva. Earlier he told sarvaloka vyavaharaha. Adhyasa is the cause of all vyavahara. Here he says Adhyasa is the cause of kartrutva bhoktrutva vyavahara. Okay. It is the same. There he told in one way, here he told slightly differently. Earlier he told he is the sarvaloka vyavahara. Adhyasa is the cause of sarvaloka vyavahara. Here he says Adhyasa is the cause of kartrutva bhoktrutvam. Ihatu kartrutva bhoktrutva pravartakaha iti tadeva karyam pradarsha. He is showing the same effect. Effect means product. The same product of Adhyasa. What was stated in the beginning, the same thing is telling here in the conclusion. Karyam pradarsha, showing the effect of Adhyasa. The product of Adhyasa is thought, speech, and behavior. Okay, pradarsha. Tad hetutvena Adhyaso varnyate. And it is due to Adhyasa that these three appear, Vyavahara appears in us. Therefore, a person who understands there is no Adhyasa, he stands free from Vyavahara also. Vyavahara may appear to us, but he himself stands beyond Vyavahara. He is not affected by Vyavahara. He doesn't undergo Vyavahara. He is not affected by Vyavahara. Two things. Jnani, one who understands free from Adhyasa. He negates Adhyasa in him. He stands as a Sakshi. Sakshi is not subject to Adhyasa. See, Sakshi is not a subject to a vritti. Vritti is Adhyasa. Adhyasa is a vritti, a thought, a notion. Sakshi is not subject to any notion. Sakshi is not available for any notion. Sakshi is not available for speaking. Sakshi is not available for any action. You can't hold him, relate to him, talk to him. You can't do anything with him. So he stands as that Sakshi who is not related to Vyavahara. On him, no Vyavahara happens. That means you can't directly relate to him. No action can take place on Sakshi, because at the level of Sakshi, no Vyavahara. You can't entertain a thought about Sakshi. See, this is a very interesting. You cannot entertain, like a book, you can think of a book. You can think of anything on the earth. You can't think of Sakshi. If you think of a Sakshi, that becomes Adhyasa. See, this is a very interesting thing. Sakshi himself cannot be thought of. If you think that the thought can be, the notion is going to be inevitably wrong. Because when Sakshi, who is only a pure subject, eternal subject, not available for any thought, if you think, then that's what it means. What is not available for thought? What is not available for notion? You have a notion about it. Obviously, it is a wrong notion. What is available for notion, if you can think, then that could be a right notion. But Sakshi, which is not available for notion, if you entertain a notion, naturally it is a wrong notion. That's why we say it is an Adhyasa. Any notion about Sakshi is going to be Adhyasa. Any notion you entertain about Sakshi is going to be a mistake alone, because Sakshi is not available for any notion. Sakshi is not available for any word, any reference, because all reference, all language works within the relative world alone. Within the world alone, or the entire language works. But Sakshi is not an object, is not something within the world, therefore no language applies to him. No words, no relations. Relationship of spatial relationship, temporal relationship, relation in terms of time, relationship in terms of space, relationship in terms of object. No relation applies to Atma, and language works only in relationship. Okay, language works only in regards to worldly objects. Then Sakshi is none of them. That means Sakshi stands. Sakshi stays at such a level where no language applies. No thought can be entertained about Sakshi, and no language can work, and nobody can deal with Sakshi. You can't relate to action also. You can't deal with Sakshi. You can't relate to Sakshi. You can't act upon it. You can't act upon Sakshi, because Sakshi is not available for any action. This is called Sarva Vyavaharatita. And regarding such Sakshi, if you have a thought, then naturally it is going to be a wrong thought. And if you are expressing through your words, naturally your words go wrong. And when you are trying to deal with Sakshi, definitely all your actions are dealing with a shade, dealing with a shadow of Sakshi. That means a representative of Sakshi, not directly Sakshi. Representative means something like an image. It is something like you can only carry an image of a person, a photo of a person. You can't carry the person himself. You can only carry a photo of a person in your packet. You can't carry the person in your packet. Similarly, you can only take an image of Atma, image of Sakshi, then you can deal with that. That image is Adhyasa, a reflection. See, or in another Laukika worldly experience, you can't look at your own face. The face which you look at in your mirror is only a reflection, is only an image. It's not you, it's not your real face. Okay. Your face you can't see directly, you can only see your reflection. You can only see an image. So, image is a wrong form of it, a representative of it is not original. Similarly, an imposed one. Similarly, when you are dealing with Pramatru, you are only dealing with an image, a reflection of Sakshi, not directly Sakshi. Therefore, Sakshi cannot be thought of, Sakshi cannot be described, Sakshi cannot be dealt with. Okay, you can't deal with Sakshi, you can't describe Sakshi, you can't deal with means you can't relate to, and you can't think of Sakshi. And if you have a thought about it, it is an image, false image, not the original Sakshi. If you are describing something imposed on Sakshi, a representative, a reflection, you are talking of that alone. And relationship, action also action is done towards somebody else, not to the directly Sakshi, because at the level of the Sakshi, no Vyavahara is possible. Sarva Vyavahara Atita. When we say Vyavahara Atita, we just say and leave them. It is the job of your manana. Many people don't know how to do manana. Therefore, somebody like me has to do the entire manana for you. We just say it is Vyavaharatita. What is Vyavahara, we told. And Atma is Vyavaharatita. We left it. Now you do it. Many people just explain this much and leave them. Come on, you do Vyavahara. You do Vichara for yourself. Okay. But how I am free from Vyavahara? What is Vyavahara? When I am doing Vyavahara, what I am dealing with? But Atma itself is freedom from Vyavahara. So this point we have to again and again do manana and make ourselves very, very clear. Okay? Manana makes it clear. If you don't know Manana, it remains a superficial thought alone. Manana means seeing it in your anubhava, not seeing in your intellect. If you see it in a thought in your intellect as a concept, then it doesn't touch your heart. It must touch your heart, then only it is Jnanam, otherwise it is not Jnanam. Okay, now we'll proceed. Tadhetu varnya, Adhyaso varnyate, therefore Adhyasa is the underlying cause. Not a normal cause in terms of time. Adhyasa is an underlying presupposed thing, presupposition, underlying presupposition. Within Adhyasa alone, all things happen. Tadhetutvena Adhyaso varnyate, ubhayatrapi Adhyasah swapradana eva nirdishyate jnana nivartyatva kathanartam. Therefore, Adhyasa in the Ubhayatra. Ubhayatra means in the first introduction and here in the conclusion. Both at introduction and conclusion. In both the places, Bhashyakara says the same thing. He is not contradicting himself. What he said in introduction, same thing he is telling. In both the places, Adhyasaha swapradana eva nirdishyate. Adhyasa is pointed out as the cause of Vyavahara. As an underlying basis of Vyavahara, it is due to Adhyasa alone all Vyavahara. So when Atma means the self-existing consciousness is beyond Vyavahara, means it is self-existing. You don't need any Vyavahara. Vyavahara means thought. You don't need thought to know Atman, because Atma is beyond thought. That means you see how thought is interfering in seeing the Atma. Atma is self-existing. For self-existing, why do you need a thought? But you keep on bringing the thought. That is interfering unnecessary. Thought is interfering, speech is interfering, actions are interfering. So if you pay attention beyond your actions, beyond your words, and beyond your thoughts, then that's what it is. You are there. You are Sakshi. Therefore, here he says, Swapradhana eva nirdishyate. Adhyasa is directly stated not as a karya of avidya, mula vidya, which our Vyakhyanakaras told. See here in Adhyasa Bhashya, both in the introduction as well as in the conclusion, Bhashyakara is talking of Adhyasa as the main topic. Swapradhana is as a main thing, as a main. Why do you say main? Yeah, because Vyakhyanakaras say Adhyasa is not the main thing. Adhyasa is secondary. They take Adhyasa as a secondary. And what is the main? They say Adhyasa is a secondary, but through Adhyasa he is trying to teach, he is trying to point out Mula Vidya. Why Bhashyakara is discussing Adhyasa here? In the beginning of Brahma Sutra Bhashya, as an introductory, as a preface to Brahma Sutra, he says Adhyasa is the root cause of samsara. And to remove this Adhyasa, all Vedanta starts. Adhyasa vinivruttaye. In order to remove this Adhyasa, sarve Vedantaha arabhyante. In the next sentence he is going to say. Now in this sentence, he concludes Adhyasa topic. In the next sentence, how this Adhyasa forms an introduction or a preface to Brahma Sutra Bhashya, to Vedanta. In fact, it constitutes, it forms a upodghata, a preface to entire Vedanta. Any Vedanta, Adhyasa becomes Adhyasa Bhashya, becomes an introduction, becomes a preface to the Vedanta Vichara. So here he says, it is Swapradhana. He is talking, Adhyasa is the cause. Adhyasa is in our Anubhava. Adhyasa is the cause of Vyavahara. He is talking, pointing out Adhyasa directly. And they say, Adhyasa is not Swapradhana. Adhyasa is a secondary. Through Adhyasa, he is trying to point out something else. So in order to teach Mula Vidya, Adhyasa is discussed here. This is what they say, Mula Vidya Vadins. Adhyasa, Bhashyakara is no doubt discussing Adhyasa, but he doesn't mean to talk about Adhyasa. Through Adhyasa, he is trying to imply something else. See, this is how unnecessary. Swamiji says this is wrong. He is talking Adhyasa directly, mainly in order to talk Adhyasa alone. Not Adhyasa is a secondary topic in order to describe something else. There is no something else. He is talking directly of Adhyasa only. Okay, so Swapradhana eva nirdishyate. Adhyasa is pointed out as a main thing, directly. Okay, Jnana Nivartatva, because it is Adhyasa alone that is to be removed. They say, now those who talk of Mula Vidya, it becomes a big problem. Then why Bhashyakara is dealing with Adhyasa? Why is it describing elaborately in detail Adhyasa? If Mula Vidya is the real cause of samsara, then discuss directly Mula Vidya alone. Why talk of Adhyasa? You may say simply this Mula Vidya produces Adhyasa and leave it. That's enough, one sentence. Why does he have to discuss so elaborately Adhyasa? Because he wants to talk about Adhyasa. He wants to say Adhyasa is the main problem. Therefore, he is taking Adhyasa is the main thing and talking, and not Adhyasa is a product of something else, a speculative and imaginary Mula Vidya. So, Bhashyakara's intention is to talk of Adhyasa for sake of Adhyasa directly. Not through Adhyasa, he is trying to prove something else. Nothing to prove. Adhyasa alone directly is there in our experience. Because, so one point is over. Second point is, this Adhyasa alone can be corrected by Jnanam. They say, Adhyasa cannot be removed by Jnanam. First thing is, Bhashyakara talks of Adhyasa in Adhyasa Bhashya, not to talk about Adhyasa. He is talking Adhyasa, he is raising it in order to take you to something else, that is Mula Vidya. How they made Adhyasa into secondary. And in order to prove Mula Vidya, he is touching Adhyasa. This is too much interpretation. Okay, this is one. Second is, what can go by Jnanam? It is Adhyasa alone that can be corrected by Jnanam. If something there is other than Adhyasa, Anadhyasta, if there is Mula Vidya, then it becomes a some Padartha, Bhavarupa, it cannot be removed by Jnanam. Jnanam can only correct. Okay. Jnanam can correct a misunderstanding. Therefore, Adhyasa is the main topic. Adhyasa is the main to be addressed. Because you see some post-Shankarites talking, Bhashyakara has nothing to do with Adhyasa. You see how they talk about like this? Jnanam doesn't deal with Adhyasa at all. It deals with Mula Vidya only. Then why talking of Adhyasa so elaborately, so much? He doesn't want to talk about Adhyasa. He wants to refer to Adhyasa in order to talk about Mula Vidya. If Mula Vidya is the main topic and Adhyasa is secondary, somewhere he should say, entire Adhyasa Bhashya, somewhere at least once he should refer. But he never refers. Even though Bhashyakara never refers to anything other than Adhyasa, throughout he touches Adhyasa, beginning Adhyasa, conclusion Adhyasa, everywhere he talks of Adhyasa alone as a main topic. He never refers to Mula Vidya. They say Mula Vidya is the main topic, Adhyasa is secondary. Strange explanation they do. If Mula Vidya is the main, at least he should have told somewhere. Why so elaborately discussing Adhyasa? You should have discussed Mula Vidya only. So this explanation of them is only an apologetic explanation. It doesn't work, doesn't fit in, it can't be accepted. Therefore, Bhashyakara is clearly touching the Adhyasa as the main thing. Not that he is explaining Adhyasa in order to point out something else. There is no something else, directly Adhyasa alone. He is talking Adhyasa only to refer to Adhyasa, only to talk about Adhyasa. Sapradhana, the word in Sanskrit is beautiful, Sapradhana. It is discussing Adhyasa just to talk about Adhyasa. Not that through Adhyasa something else like Mula Vidya, as post-Shankarites say, not for that, because such thing doesn't exist. Swapradhana eva nirdishyate jnana nirvatyatva kathanartam ato na prakrama bhangaha shankyaha. Therefore, don't see any deviation or any from the topic. Prakrama bhangaha andre deviating from the introduction. In the beginning, he said sometimes what happened, you start with one topic, and at the conclusion you start something else. No, Bhashyakara is consistent. No prakrama bhanga means no lack of consistency. Prakrama bhangaha, lack of consistency. No contradiction. Okay, no contradiction. In fact, is very contradictory. No contradiction. What he touched in the beginning, same thing is touching in the conclusion. And in between also repeatedly touches Adhyasa, Adhyasa, Adhyasa. Therefore, it's very clear Adhyasa is the only topic. Okay, Adhyasa Visheshanam Vivaranam. We'll talk about it. 55th we have completed today, and 56 we'll do in the next class. I think we'll move faster, probably within a few weeks. I think maybe in 1 month or so. I think 1 month is enough. I don't know. Probably 1 or maximum 2 months. I think January or February. Mostly in the month of February, we'll conclude Sugama. Okay. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om Tat Sat.